The gate originally came equipped with this little post attached on one side of the gate and a lower into a hole where they had some concrete and PVC. This is the piece of concrete and PVC they had. Within 2 days of installation of the gate, we had a windstorm and some associated rain. It pretty much tore that loose. The gate was flapping around pretty badly, and it wasn't going to take much more of that. I'd say just a couple months and I'd have some hinge problems, attachment point problems. This is pretty much the only part that attaches to the other side of the gate. And with that just one point right there and 10 feet of gate absorbing all the wind pressure, it was just shaking itself to death. So I needed to come up with a different way of anchoring the gate doors, especially during a windstorm. And that one little rod going into this PVC hole wasn't cutting it. Even if it was a larger concrete block, that little post is really not going to do a sufficient job of holding the gate still and keeping it from beating around. It's only anchored at one point. So what I wanted to do is have something that could anchor all along up through the gate on both sides, and giving it a much stronger anchor point so that the wind's not going to shake the gate to death. This side I only use occasionally if I need to back some larger equipment into the yard. So most of the time it needs to act as a nice stationary part of the fence, an anchor point for where that gate closes. The first phase of this I completed last night, where I dug down pretty deep. I went down at least 3 to 4 feet, laid a base layer of cement with the 4x4 PVC post sheaths, I guess you would call it. I got them in place exactly where they needed to be to hold the gate tightly. The end result was the lower part of the posts now have dry concrete in there. I didn't want to fill in the whole hole, or else the concrete would come up to the level where the posts are, unless I left the posts in there, and then I'd be concreting the posts in place. But what I want to do in the end is be able to remove the posts, put them in and out, so I can open or close the gate. The gate will swing over those posts, and then once these are in place and they're all cemented in, I'll put another PVC sheath over this. Eventually that's where the cement's going to fill in, pole holder. One of the last things I'll do is, when these are all in place, I'll fill in this last piece with some cement, PVC, be able to hold this in place. Sits up against the post just fine on that side. Make sure this one's all right. Perfect. It's exactly what I want. Snug on both sides. And when I'm done, I'm going to put the fence, the vinyl fence sheathing on the outside of these posts, so I'll have a nice match with the gate itself, and it's not going to scratch up or mar the gate. Okay, and now for the pipe where the rod's going to slide into. Put it in there where you think it's going to be while the concrete is still maneuverable. And then close the gate, make sure it is exactly where you need it. Move it into position. I'm going to take this out and not let it dry with this, because if the gate blows around in the meantime, it'll move that. I want to be able to use it. I'm going to have it come up a little higher. I can always cut it shorter. I want to make sure that the lawnmower's not going to be beating this thing up later on. And I can fill this area in with cement a little more later on, once I really finalize this project. I want to make sure this is still removable. It didn't get cemented into place. I'm going to have to clean the concrete off of the bottom of this. But eventually, what's going to happen is the gate rod still slide into place. I've got it so it's nice and snug, because I don't want this moving around. That's the whole purpose of this, is to keep the door from shaking back and forth. I want this to fit snug. It's going to keep the door nice and tight. It's going to keep it from shaking around, and that's going to give a nice little anchor for when the other gate closes. And it'll take less of a beating when we get those windstorms come through here. And this fence will last a lot longer, at least in the gate area. 5-foot doors. I needed more than just that puny little anchor point at the bottom. I want something that's going to hold the whole gate in place, just like a post. So I don't get a twisting moment from only the bottom being anchored. I've got something supporting all along the side, on both sides of at least one door, keeping it nice and solid.